Hi there. We're going to read a story called Festival of the Sun. Let me read what it says about it. The Festival of the Sun is a story about Peruvian people preparing for their annual Festival of the Sun. Dating back to the Inca Empire, this is one of the great festivals in South America, and it takes place in Cuzco, Peru, each winter solstice. Let's follow the Festival of the Sun with Yana in this story. So boys and girls, let me share my screen. Sorry. All right, so boys and girls, here's our story just to show you the cover briefly. And let's look at our map and our question and answer sheet. All right, today's story takes us down here to the continent of South America. Let's see if I can zoom in a little more and show you that Peru is this small yellow country here on the western coast of South America. And it's where the Incan Empire was. The Incan Empire existed about 600 years ago, maybe hundreds more. And they're credited for, they started as a very small tribe and grew, developed roads and bridges, art and architecture that is celebrated to this day. And that's a bit of what our story is about, the celebration that continues every year now in a town called, well, a small village called Cuzco, Peru. I'm going to show you the question answer sheet. Let me put this guy back where he belongs, over here in Peru. All right, let's take a look at our question answer sheet. I'm going to show you the book so that you can write down the author and the illustrator and the copyright date of our story. After we read the book, I want you to decide whether this was a work of fiction, nonfiction, realistic fiction, or historical fiction. And the questions I'd like you to keep in mind as we read today are: number one, where is the Festival of the Sun celebrated? The Peruvian name for Festival of the Sun is Inti Raymi. Question two says, describe an alpaca. And number three says, why was it special that Yana's father was chosen to be king of the Festival of the Sun? Okay, so those are the questions to keep in mind as we go through our story. Festival of the Sun. And boys and girls, I think you know what a festival is. It's a celebration usually done annually, something that's done on a regular basis and annually. So this is a celebration. It's a festival. They wear colorful costumes, eat certain foods, and there are certain traditions that are observed there. So our story again is Festival of the Sun. It's written by Jong-soon Jo, illustrated by Jo, and edited by Joy Cowley. You only need to write down the writer and the illustrator. The writer, Jong-soon Jo, and the illustrator, Jo. We don't usually have the editor listed on the cover of our books. That's the person who makes sure that all the information and all the information is correct and everything is correct that is published in the book. So that's interesting. All right, Festival of the Sun by Jong-soon Jo and Jo. And remember, boys and girls, if I'm moving ahead of you, you can always pause the tape and write down the information that you need. I'll try to make sure that we pause when we get to some of the information here. Oh, also the copyright date. Again, we like to know if read the information, we're reading about how current that is, how current and up to date that is. It also gives us a perspective in other stories of when it's taking place. Here we are on the back page in very small print. We find that this was published by Big and Small Publishing Company in the year 2016. So your copyright date is 2016. All right, let's begin. High up in the Andes Mountains, Yana lived in a small village close to Cuzco. Soon, Cuzco was to hold the Festival of the Sun. The people in the village were curious. Who would be the king of the festival? This year, Yana's father had been nominated for the king. So each year, someone is nominated, given the honor of being the king of the festival. In a side note, it says, Cuzco is a city located northeast of the Andes Mountains. It used to be the capital of the Inca Empire. Pablo shouted to the other children, Yana's dad is one of the nominees for the king of the Festival of the Sun. No way, someone teased. He'll never get to be the king. Yana didn't say a word, but she was offended by the remark. But she kept silent. When school finished, she ran home. Mom welcomed her with a huge smile. Your dad will be king of the festival. Really? She jumped up and down. Oh, I knew he would be chosen. Then her mother said, I need you to do a chore for me. Take this grilled corn to Cuzco. He is shearing the alpacas. Yana was so excited she ran. Ooh, we're going to learn something about alpacas here. I think that's question number 2. Alpacas are animals related to camels. They have soft hair and are raised by the indigenous people in the Andes Mountains. Hair from the alpacas is used to make fabric. Please write about that in your own words. You don't have to copy this word for word, but I will repeat the information. Alpacas are animals related to camels. They have soft hair and are raised by the indigenous people in the Andes Mountains. Hair from the alpacas is used to make fabric. So you can summarize that any way you'd like. You don't have to write it word for word, but let me give you a moment or two to do that. Side note, I believe I have an alpaca coat. I haven't worn it in quite a while, but I do have an alpaca coat made from alpaca fur. All right, and again, remember you can always pause the video if you need to look at that and think about that more. Yana's brother Cuzco was shearing a young alpaca. Cuzco, I have some corn for you. Is there anything I can do to help? You can help by staying still, said Cuzco to his sister. Yana felt grumpy. She grumbled to herself and ate some of the corn. I think her brother was the one being grumpy. Mom was sitting at her awana. Next to it were dyed alpaca threads. Soon the threads would be changed into cloth for warm clothing. Yana asked, Mom, can I help? I want to learn how to weave. You'll learn when you are older, said Mom. Now go and play. Yana felt very grumpy. She stamped out of the house. And here's a side note about the awana, or the loom that her mother is using. An awana is a wooden loom used for making cloth. Long threads are tied to a wooden frame. This is the warp. Then the threads are woven through them sideways. This is the weft. The cloth is woven to the size of the garment needed. And a beautiful cloth that is that they've done. Beautiful. Yana woke up her father, who was taking an afternoon nap. Dad, I wanted to help Cuzco and Mom, but they don't need me. Can I help you get ready for the festival of the sun? Oh, her father yawned. It's okay. You can have fun instead. Then he went back to sleep. Oh, no one seems to want Yana's help. It was the day before the festival. Dad practiced what he needed to do as king of the festival. He said, Inca forever, and his voice shook. Dad, your voice is all wobbly, Yana told him. You should say it louder. Her father smiled at her. Honey, why don't you go and play? It was the day of the festival of the sun. Cuzco Square was crowded with people. Yana's family followed the parade to the hill for the final ceremony. Yana's heart thumped at the thought of seeing her father as the festival king. Flags were stuck on the walls. Torches flamed when they were lit. There were long lines of soldiers and lines of ladies dancing. People were taking photos. Yana stood on her tiptoes to try and see her father. The sun rose and the king stood by the altar. He wore fine clothing and a golden crown. He really did look like the king of all the Incas. The king gave the offering for a good year of great harvest. Inca forever, he said. His voice was loud like a real king's. Once the offering was burnt and the smoke rose toward the sun, the sacrifice was finished. The king blessed all the people there. So boys and girls, this is a custom in a culture we may not be very familiar with, but as part of the tradition, in the festival of the sun, the person playing the king offers the heart of a llama, which is an animal like an alpaca, but larger. It is offered to the sun god, again, for a good harvest. Oh, there's Yana with her father. When Dad saw Yana, he strode toward her. Yana felt shy. She looked down at her feet. Dad picked her up and spun her around. Yana, my own dear daughter. Yana's shyness turned into a smile. She felt like an Incan princess. Traditional music flowed in the marketplace, and people danced joyfully to cheerful rhythms. Every year is revived in this Incan way. Even when Yana is a grandmother, the Festival of the Sun will continue. And boys and girls, in the back here, we have a few facts about the Festival of the Sun. It tells you the flag of Peru is red and white. On the middle of the white section is the Peruvian coat of arms. The Festival of the Sun, called Inti Raymi in Peruvian, one of the great festivals of South America, the Festival of the Sun began when people prayed to the sun god for a great harvest. Every year in Cuzco, I think that's one of your questions, where is the Festival of the Sun celebrated? Every year in Cuzco, the Festival of the Sun is celebrated, and the person who takes the role of the king is called Inca. Inca means son of the sun. The festival king is selected from the Peruvian indigenous community. The people of Peru are proud of the Festival of the Sun, which is an ongoing part of Inca tradition. So boys and girls, I think the other question asks you, why was it special that Yana's father was chosen to be the king of the Festival of the Sun? And after reading that, I'm going to let you think about that and decide. But boys and girls, that's our story, Festival of the Sun. I hope you enjoyed it and you'll join us for some of the others. Thanks for joining today.